about AFP, or Americans for Prosperity, when I asked David Sherman, one of our board members, to attend their open house in Manchester. He returned with the thoughts that he had observed of what he had observed at the grassroots organization and been very impressed. It's a real deal, he told me. So I asked for someone to come and speak, and Ross Coleman, Field Director to AFP, is here to tell us about AFP. He has brought some literature which is on the back table. And so, Ross, would you come up and speak?
Introduce. We have been upgraded.
Oh, you've been up?
So
Oh, we have.
I thank you for the introduction, but we have Greg Moore, our
That's
state
great.
director.
Thank you.
So,
Come on.
thanks.
I promise you that Roscoe would have given a better speech than I will, so I just want to get that out of the gate. But I figured if I'm going to have Gary and Bill here, then I might as well just show up just for the social purposes. And as it turns out, it's the first time I've seen Bill's chin, so Bill, must be. I can tell you what, you are doing Mike Marlin proud.
So this isn't going to work. They're still going to come after me.
Anyway, now that both Bill and I have been caricatured multiple times by the Concord Monitor editorial cartoon page, we both know that we are the real deal. That's right. So first of all, I want to thank Tony and everybody here for coming out today. I know that you have a number of folks speaking from the legislative side as well as Andrew Hemingway, so I'll only take about 45, 50 minutes. I'm joking. But I want to tell you a little bit about AFP. First of all, first question I want to ask is, how many people here get our emails? So most of the folks here, yeah. If you don't get our emails, I really think you should. I think it's an outstanding opportunity to hear about what's going on, both at the state and the national level, in terms of a lot of the policies that are becoming really relevant. And not only does it tell you what's going on, because it's great to find out what's going on, but it actually shows how you can take action and reach out to the person who's appropriate at that time. So for example, if an issue is in front of the U.S. Senate, we're not going to say, call your state rep. And so we're going to put you in contact with your U.S. senators. If an issue is before the New Hampshire State House, we're going to put you in touch with your state reps. If an issue is before an executive issue before the governor, we're going to allow you to get in touch with the governor. But that's a really critical way for us to get information out to people. There was a time when people actually do regular mailings. First of all, as we know, mailings are not real time. There's a lag. But secondarily, it's just so much easier for us to get out more information in a very timely way and in an efficient way. So in the back, Ross, who is the field director for this area of the state, Ross has sign-up sheets, and if you have not signed up, please take the opportunity. It takes, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds, maybe 15, to sign up, and I promise you that the information you get will be worth your while. And if you don't, you can click the unsubscribe button. That's easy. But Americans for Prosperity is a nonpartisan, nonprofit group that is designed to do what we can to, as I like to tell people, save New Hampshire. It's a pretty simple mission. We're trying to save New Hampshire, and by extension, save America. That's what we're here to do. We are here to give people the opportunity to do what's best for themselves. In other words, make the choices in their lives that best suit themselves and not have government make those decisions for them. We believe the best way to do that is through economic freedom. And so we promote economic freedom, entrepreneurship, and opportunity for all Americans. And that means a number of things. What is economic freedom? Economic freedom is point blank. It's first and foremost making sure the size of government is small in comparison to the size of the private sector economy. It means that we have strong personal property rights. It means that we have limited and smart regulation, and it means that we have common sense trade policies that allow us to do business with other countries. But right now, as you know, those are important big picture ideals. But as everyone knows, there's an 800-pound elephant in the room. Actually, elephants are bigger than 800 pounds, aren't they? So there's a 2-ton elephant in the room, and it's called Obamacare. As everybody knows, it is touching everything from the state to the federal level. And Obamacare is really the issue that is consuming oxygen at the state and federal levels. Now, what's going on with Obamacare? I talk a lot about Obamacare. In addition to having worked for Bill, I spent 4 years working as a director at the Department of Health and Human Services under then Commissioner John Stephen, the guy you might remember. And I learned a lot about health care and health policy. And so when I look at an issue, I ask myself, big picture, what does it mean? Because frankly, one of the things that tends to happen right now is we get wrapped around the axle of these little minute details. Exactly how many people signed up, how many of the sign-ups are enrollments. We start getting into the weeds and people get lost on it. And although Obamacare antagonizes a lot of people because of what it has done, frankly, the Democrats love to try to suck you into the weeds so that they can have a discussion at a level where it's incomprehensible to the average person. Now, first of all, it's important to realize that Obamacare, the law we're seeing, there's no resemblance to the law that was signed into law, and certainly no resemblance to the law that was sold to the American people. If Obamacare actually did what the sponsors, the president, actually said it would do, I don't think there'd be anywhere near the type of animosity. First, let's remember what we were promised. We were promised if you liked your health care plan, you could keep your health care plan. Well, that's not true. If you liked your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Well, that's not true. We were told beyond that the average policy premiums would go down $2,500 for a family of 4. Anything exactly. I think there's some exasperated laughs. That's not happening either. None of the things that we were promised are actually happening. And why is it happening? Because it was a system that was designed to fail. It was designed to fail. Frankly, I believe that Obamacare was merely designed, and actually the Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said as much. He said Obamacare was designed to be a step towards socialized health care. The problem is they didn't expect it to fail this quickly or this spectacularly. And it has. And it's broken down on so many different levels because the big picture scheme from a health policy perspective was always missed frankly, by a lot of the members of the media, but by a lot of our elected officials who frankly were opposing Obamacare. They missed the big picture. It really handles things in 2 buckets. There's the insurance bucket, and then there's the entitlement bucket. And I think it's smart if you split the 2 buckets separately in your mind, because it helps understand what we're doing in this law. In the insurance bucket, what we're saying is you can stay on your parents' policy until you're 26. We're going to reduce the ratios of community rating so that the seniors and the high utilizers, who are particularly the older adults, not the seniors in terms of being on Medicare eligible, but basically that 55 to 65 range, so that their premiums come down. And then we're going to go and we're going to turn around and try to do some things for younger adults. So basically what we're trying to do is we're going to take and we're going to hammer the people between 35 and 55 for the privilege of trying to reduce costs in people on either ends of that scale. The younger people because they traditionally don't buy health care because it's not a good deal for them. And the older people because, well, frankly, they want to get towards a more traditional health system as a step to get towards a socialized medicine policy. So from the insurance side, you had the middle getting hammered and people at either ends between the ages of 18 and 65 getting a benefit. And frankly, that's really what happened. And with the addition of a whole bunch of taxes to pay for subsidies for some of the poorer people. So that's what's happening in the insurance side of the world. And over the entitlement side of the world, we have 2 major entitlement programs for healthcare. One's Medicare and one's Medicaid. Medicare is healthcare for seniors. Everyone who works pays into it. It's called your FICA, the component of your paycheck. And you're paying for it right now. When you hit 65, you're able to start collecting Medicare. Medicaid is health insurance for the poor and disabled. It's a welfare program, is what it is. And so what happened? We expanded the Medicaid program. And how do we pay for that? We paid for it by making significant cuts to Medicare. So basically, we took money away from seniors who paid into the program to pay for a welfare program. That's exactly what the entitlement bucket looks like. And that is what Obamacare is in a nutshell. And that's why people are getting energized and motivated against it, because they're starting to understand this. Seniors are starting to understand that what's the changes in Medicare mean that if you go to the hospital, they put you on observation status. They don't admit you. They say, well, what does that mean? I still go to the hospital and I still get care. If I put you on observation status, that means you're outpatient. That means you pay for it in your Part B, so you have to pay a percentage of the cost, as opposed to being in your Part A, which means that the government picks it up. They are hammering the people in the Medicare Advantage program. Now, what's Medicare Advantage, generally speaking? Medicare Advantage is a supplemental insurance coverage for people who tend to be the poorer seniors. And what they're doing is they're saying we're taking away that bump that gave them an opportunity to do a wraparound coverage for poorer seniors. So they're frankly that they're really hitting the seniors hard. And as it turns out, the seniors are really angry about this. If you go to any senior citizen center and start talking about Obamacare, they're infuriated. Because they're talking to their doctors and they know the changes are coming down the pike, and they're the ones who are on the tip of the spear. Meanwhile, the people in the ages in that 35 to 55 group who've seen their insurance premiums grow, nationally on average, just within that small cohort, going up 30 to 40%. Here in New Hampshire, we have one insurer in our Obamacare exchange. One. That's Anthem. Now, the fact that Gene Shaheen passed a law in 1996 that drove all the insurers out of the state and left Anthem as an 800-pound gorilla selling individual policies, basically guaranteed that we'd only have one insurer in the state. So we now have a monopoly. So what did they do? If you talk to Anthem, they said, listen, we knew that if we kept the same network and added all the benefits we were required to add, thanks to Obamacare, premiums would go up 30 to 40% here in New Hampshire. 30 to 40%. Now, what did they do in response? They took their hospital network and cut it from 26 hospitals to 16. 10 hospitals, including, anybody here use Southern New Hampshire Medical Center? If you use Southern New Hampshire Medical Center and you buy an Obamacare policy, you're not using it. It's gone. Or Concord Hospital, gone. As well as some other major hospitals like Portsmouth Hospital, the one in Derry, Parkland, over up in Rochester, Frisbee. 10 hospitals gone out of the network. And Anthem says, hey, listen, we just made a business decision. If we had to stick with the rules of Obamacare, we'd be selling a policy that no one would want to buy. Think about that for a second. And it's a pretty honest admission, isn't it? We have to sell a policy that no one would buy. And that's what Obamacare is doing to our marketplace. And that's what we're seeing every day. So, at Americans for Prosperity, we know this is a problem. I mean, look, we believe the healthcare system had problems going in. In 2008, AFP was saying that there needed to be changes to the healthcare system. We need a more free market healthcare program. Anyway, this was before Obamacare, but this was during when McCain had his proposal and Obama had his proposal. We said we needed change. So absolutely begin with repeal. There's no question. You have to begin with repealing Obamacare because this doesn't work, and it was never designed to really work. And start building a healthcare system on a free market program that involves incentives. But how do you get there? It's not going to happen by itself. There have to be people doing the hard work on the ground. We are doing the hard work on the ground. We have had over 25 Obamacare events since last August across the state. Some of you have been to some of them. We've been all over the state. And just last week we were up. Today we were in Nashua. Last week we were up in Hanover, and we were out in Portsmouth, over in Dover, up in Concord, out in Manchester. We get everywhere across the state. We hold these events on a regular basis to try to educate people about what's going on with Obamacare, and B, tell them what they can do. Now, if you're mad, and you should be mad, you should get involved with AFP, because we are the group who across New Hampshire is leading the charge against Obamacare. Now, what are we doing about it? First and foremost, we're doing the tough grunt work. We're actually reaching out to people across the state. We're asking them how they feel about Obamacare, so that A, we can share them information if they don't understand what's going on, and B, we can understand which people are like us pretty upset about it, and we can express to them exactly how they can take action and move forward and try to repeal this law. We need your help. We need tons and tons of manpower. We have great people like Ross who are working tirelessly. I mean, Ross works at least 3 12-hour days a week, minimum. free trade 12 hours days a week. I do the same too. It's not a very well balanced life, I'll admit that. But anyone who's ever been on a campaign trail knows that that's not a balanced life anyway. But that's what we do, and that's because we know that's what it's going to take to be able to make the changes that we need to make to get us away from this disastrous healthcare system that's coming down the pipe. Because the next step, if we don't do anything, is 2017 is going to say, well, this didn't work, so why don't we just have the government take over the rest of the system? And if you believe in making your own decisions and making the choices with your funds and making the best care decisions for yourself between you and your doctor, then you need to take action and start working and try to break down the walls on Obamacare. We'll see at the state level. I mean, we saw it a few weeks ago here in New Hampshire. Unfortunately, our state legislature, and I know that the two legislators here weren't too happy about it, but our state legislature went and expanded Medicaid under Obamacare. They basically enabled those folks who are basically trying to rob money for seniors to add more money to the welfare program. They enabled them up in Concord. It's pretty sad, but we have to take the next step of fighting back. And I ask for your help. We need your help. We need you guys to get involved. Ross Conley's the guy who's going to be involved here. You're going to see him around. Get his business card. Sign up. Get involved. He just gave me a look like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I have any business cards, but get his contact information. Ross will be in touch with you. We'll tell you how to get involved. That's our job. But we need your help. We need a lot of hard work to get this done. And we can do it. That's the good news. We can do it. AFP has been around since 2004, but we share the DNA of an older group, but I mean with Citizens for a Sound Economy. CSC, some of you might have heard of if you've been around it. That actually was very active in the mid to late 90s here in New Hampshire. CSC was a group, and it's a lot of the same people at the senior level that were involved with CSC are involved with AFP. With a group who really were the ones who did inhaler care. And we can do the same here, but it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take days and days and hours of doing things like making phone calls and knocking on doors. The good news is I feel confident saying this. We have caught up with the left in that technology. We've caught up with technology. The left was so far ahead of us from a technology standpoint, it was absurd. What the left also had was a ton of volunteers. And we need you guys to be just as active in getting rid of Obamacare as they were in passing it. Because they're committed. This wasn't a just pass a law deal. They knew that. They knew that this was the first step towards socialized medicine, and they knew it was going to take a lot of years and a lot of time invested. And their people were out there working hard and volunteering. And we need you to do the same. So with that, I could go on forever, but I will say that I'm optimistic. I am highly optimistic. And I see one question. I'll take a few questions.
Yeah, do you have a plan on how you're going to roll back Obamacare with all the people that are on it?
Okay, so I think the question is
repeat
as
it.
more people are beneficiaries of Obamacare, how are you going to roll it back?
Yeah.
And the answer, first of all, I would say this. That's frequently a question that's tossed out there. But one thing I know, I was working in the House of Representatives when a certain speaker said there's no way we're going to raise taxes, we're going to cut, and actually passed a budget that cut 11% and cut state spending by 18%. Someone said, there's no way you could ever get that done. Now that guy happens to be sitting in this room.
I know who it is.
But it can be done. You're saying there's a political will there. And what I'm saying is, if the politicians are more afraid of the people, if they don't make change, if they do make change and if they don't, then the answer is yes, change can happen.
How has Obamacare affected employment? More specifically,
That's a great question. And you know, one of the things I like to do is I like to talk sometimes in anecdotes. That's one thing I know Bill knows, but I like to talk in anecdotes a lot. We've had several forums across the state. We call called Obamacare Real People, Real Stories events. And we like to invite business owners. Business owners of all shapes, sizes, and flavors. Let me tell you a story about a guy who owns a sawmill in Wynne, New Hampshire. He has 48 employees. His name, ironically, is Larry King, but not that Larry King. Larry King owns a sawmill in Wentworth. He has 48 employees. He says, I will not hire a 50th employee. I will not put myself into jeopardy of taking that employer mandate. So he says, I have the work. I have the work to grow, but I'm not going to. I was talking to a fellow named Jim Boyle, who's the owner of Portsmouth Toyota. He has 50 employees in New Hampshire and 30 more in another dealership he has in Massachusetts. Jim said to me, okay, I'm not taking a long view on this. I'm just dealing with it on a piece-by-piece basis. But I'm looking at the president said I'm going to delay the employer mandate. In the first year, it's delayed for everybody. But in a second or third year, it's going to come down to either 100 or 80 employees. And guess where I am? 80 employees. So I have to start thinking, well, what am I going to do if I have about 80 employees? So it's that uncertain, first and foremost. If these guys will tell you right there, look, there is no way I'm going to hire a 50th employee. And they're saying, I don't know where I am. I have no idea what's going on. And it's part and parcel of a president who hasn't accepted a law that he signed into law. He's delayed so many pieces, 38 different delays. The bottom line is that, first and foremost, is the uncertainty. Secondly, there are a whole bunch of taxes that have already gone into effect. And that is having a negative impact on growth. I was talking with Matt Albuquerque. He owns Next Step Orthotics. They make prosthetics, in many cases, for returning military personnel. They're based in Mill Yard in Manchester. And Matt told me he was talking about the medical device tax. And he was talking about how that's impacting your business. All of a sudden they said, guess what? You got a new federal sales tax. Just dropped on your head. Just, by the way, you have 2.7% sales tax. Okay, so how do I deal with that? Well, now he's dealing with people because there's always that incremental group of people who said, oh, now it's just a little bit too expensive for me. There's always some. Everyone's got a price point that they're willing to pay. And for some, it's pushing over the end, pushing over that point, and they won't buy. So he said his business, he thinks his business has fallen off between 3 and 5%, thanks to the medical device tax. And those are the types of stories that resonate with people. I was talking with Margaret Poole. She's from Dover. She owns a business in Portsmouth. She has 18. She has a women's hair salon. She has 18 employees. She calls them her girls. Most of them are probably might be your age. But she's been in business for 40 years, and she says this has been the most unsettling time I've ever seen. Now, for those of you 40 years, there's some pretty hairy times in the course of those last 40 years. If you could make it to the Carter years and you still think this is the most uncertain time you're dealing with, you tell me what that does to your business. People don't want to grow if they're not sure what the future holds for them. You have to have a certain degree of hope and optimism as a business owner just to exist. You would not go through the hoops and hurdles it takes to run a business if you weren't filled with hope and optimism. When you shatter that hope and optimism from people and you leave them with doubt and uncertainty, they don't have the hope that their business is going to grow, and they're not willing to take those risks. And when they don't take those risks, people don't get hired. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I mean there are some examples right there.
I was just wondering if they had any kind of numbers that
there's a talk. I mean the numbers. It depends on who you ask. I guess is the question. The drag on GDP. I've seen it modeled at anywhere as 0.5% to as much as 2% of drag on GDP. You pick a number in there. It's economists. Guess whatever you want. It's like forecasts, right?
I did go to the seminar that you had over in Portsmouth on the health fair, and I heard Frisbee Memorial and the frustration that he's experiencing. Is there anything in the short term that can be done to open up additional hospitals, especially, you've got 10 of them that...
Well, here's the deal. Over the short term, over the short term, sure, you could have the insurance department go and say that every hospital is included again. But if they did that, you'd be right back to that 30 to 40% rate increase. So you've just, it's a balance. If you push down in here, then because what happened was they said, okay, they looked at the big picture. This is what businesses do. They looked at the big picture and said, oh my goodness, if I try to deal with all these mandates that Obamacare is stuck with, I'm going to have this huge, huge new cost. And I'm going to have to try to sell policies that people don't want to buy. So what do? Okay, so if I go to the hospitals and I say, well, I'll tell you what, if you take this lower rate, I'll promise you a lot more volume. Because we'll only use you and we won't use any of your regional competitors. I mean, that's just economics, and I don't blame Anthem for trying to respond to a market condition. It's bad law and it's bad regulation, so but it's not their fault that they're trying to have to deal with the Obamacare rules and regulations. Short term, there is talk that there will be 2 other insurers who will enter the Obamacare market exchange next year. Will they, in turn, offer plans to at those hospitals, to give access to those hospitals through a different plan? The answer is I don't know. And the 2 insurers are Minuteman Health and Harvard Pilgrim. They are typically based in Massachusetts. If you look at the network that those guys have made in Massachusetts, it looks like, it doesn't even look like Swiss cheese. It's easier to find the parts that they are, where they do have providers, than it is to find the providers who aren't in it. So if they play the form, I would suspect that there will still be a number of hospitals who aren't served, but it's too early to know.
Greg, I've been on some cable television shows where they
Say that again for me.
What?
Say that again for me.
Yeah, well, where they say that the reason that we are losing provider hospitals is because Republicans chose not to have a state health care exchange. Now, I think you and I know it's apples and oranges, but presumably that's the Democrat talking point. Could you address that?
Well, first of all, that is, okay, so when Obamacare was passed, it passed with the assumption that each state would actually have its own state-based exchange. And there was this rather humorous notion that if you had a state-based exchange, that you could set the policy within your state, which is laughable. Just laughable. That was never actually planned. It was just because the federal government didn't want to deal with the headache of running exchanges in all states. However, we found out that 36 states, including New Hampshire, and by the way, New Hampshire was the first state to pass a law of banning Obamacare exchange. 36 states said, no, we're not going to do it, feds. You can run your own exchange. It's your law. You deal with it. The states that have set up and run their own exchanges are on their own from an IT perspective. They are trying to build networks similar to like the Obamacare website. They're trying to build up these exchanges, which are data hubs, connecting all sorts of disparate information from a whole bunch of providers, sources, the IRS, this group, that group, and putting them all together. The state of Maryland just pulled the plug on theirs after $125 million was spent on it. They said, we give up, we give up. The state of Oregon pulled the plug on theirs after 3 months and 0 signups in the state of Oregon. So, where's the, I guess the first question is, when they raise that talking point, the first question would be, where's the evidence that the state would be any better? And secondly, since you don't get to establish the ground rules for your state, why would you do it anyway? If it were true that as it was sold when the law was passed that New Hampshire could regulate its own insurance marketplace, then you could make a policy case for it. But since you can't, there's really no arguable sense. And moreover, there would be an enormous amount of disruption by trying to bring on a new system and flip the switch and turn it on and have a state Obamacare website, which most likely would have the same problems as the federal Obamacare website, which, boy, that was a treat, wasn't it? It really was a gift that kept giving for a while. All right, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. Please sign up in the back. Please get on a hold of Ross. Like I said, he definitely give a better speech.